Stereo collectors. Here we have a 1987 Yamaha RX-500U natural sound stereo receiver. I used to sell these at a stereo store as well as service them. It was a small store, so you worked in all departments. And I remember when this model came out, it was kind of the first, in Yamaha, it was the first of this style. And a little more compact receiver, digital tuners. They did have some digital tuners earlier than that, but the whole line was digital at this point. LED display, which is kind of cool. These were, well, at the time we were selling them, there's a little bit of snobbery associated with Yamaha. Let's see if I can explain this. If somebody came in the door in 1987 and said, "What do you think would be a good stereo for me?" And I'd say, "Well, what are you looking for? You know, what do you play primarily?" They'd say, "Well, primarily records, mainly hard rock." I would steer them away from a Yamaha. I would say, so, you know, we have Pioneer, we have Techniques, and Kenwood. And and my reason behind it actually was less sound quality. When you play rock, especially the way we used to play it back in those days, you drove the amp hard, nearly full throttle all the time, especially if you were a young guy. And these Yamahas weren't able to handle sustained high power loads. We had quite a few warranty claims on this power transformer. It's a high current transformer, and it does put a genuine 50 watts RMS old school watts per channel. Okay, it used to perform. Where Yamahas were good, things like classical music where you had, you know, la 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 la, boom, you know, then a spike. They were really great at, I don't know what you call it, dynamic headroom. I'm forgetting some of these terms. Nobody talks this way anymore, you know, except audiophiles. And I'd say to people, well, okay, if you're listening to rock, etc., what's your budget? And I try to funnel them into appropriate product. And one thing that used to hurt us as a store were warranty returns. Depending on the company, yes, we did get paid for the warranty work, but sometimes we didn't get paid enough. That's a whole other issue, talk about another day, running a service department. But people tended to buy more when the gear was reliable and it lived up to their expectations. So with the Yamaha line, it was for a more mature listener, especially people like this variable loudness and the selectable record out. These are a medium range receiver in their day, and it had the right features. It had a CD, phono input, tuner, video, tape 1, tape 2. So lots of inputs, 2 sets of speakers, 1/4-inch phone jack. It was quite a laid out unit for the money. And if I remember correctly, these were around $369, which was a bit of a breakthrough at the time. Now you could get a Techniques for less. And the Techniques, for instance, they're a good product and many of them are still working. They tended to have an integrated circuit output stage, those STK modules, which were another issue in themselves. This had a lot of, I remember the first time I ever opened the lid on one. I had one where the right channel would drop out intermittently. And I remember opening it up and thinking, wow, I've never seen that many ICs in a unit. Well, basically you have IC in the phono preamp, ICs in the AM and FM tuner, the demodulator, the multiplexer, and that actually was good because it gave you very rock solid tuner. The actual amplifier section is good old-fashioned discrete transistors, resistors, very fixable, very traceable when you had a fault. The biggest fault with these, besides the power transformer, you overdrove them, the protection relay, that's over in here. So when you turn the unit on, it sees how much DC offset is at the outputs, and there's a delay until it connects the speakers. It's 2 very tiny little fingers in that switch that hit a contactor, you know, and they build up oxide. And I remember them being just a couple years old and they would have that problem. And it was really funny. I hadn't done the repair on one of them. And I remember the senior tech, he said, oh, I know what's going on with those. It's a very common problem. Let me show you. Oh, okay. Because I was starting to trace things out and resolder. He pulled out a pair of pliers like this, cranked them like this, grabbed the lid of the relay and went, twisted it and popped it off. I'm like, oh, what's going on? He said, well, there's a little bit of glue holding that down and you got to break it. He goes, otherwise you're in for hell taking it apart. So what he did is he took a little piece of emery board, turned it on, the relay closed on, went zzz, 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 pulled it out, shot of contact clear, put the lid on, he goes, next. I said, thank you very much for showing me that. And this is there was a common problem with the Luxmans too. When many amps that I own, the stuff from the 60s and 70s, they don't have a protection relay in them. So you get a hard thump when it turns on. Hey, at least you know it's working, right? This, you end up with a soft start. And if there is too much DC offset, it won't turn the speakers on at all, because who wants straight DC going through your speakers? Anyway, it's amazing. This is a $25 find at a thrift store last week. Really clean unit, like the faceplate looked like this. Everything worked, a few scratchy controls. The protection relay, I did the cleaning trick on it, grabbed it with the big pliers. I'm not going to do it again because there's a crack in the lid now, but anyway, for the money, like what a bargain to get a vintage piece of stereo. I can't even believe I'm saying vintage. It's unbelievable. It was that many years ago. I still think of this as newer equipment. But anyway, well, mainly what's come after this was basically downhill. And it's funny, when I think about 87 and 88 in particular, before I went into telecommunications, I remember people in the store would say, you know, oh, the new Luxman, it looks good, but it's crap. The new whatever, insert brand here, it's not made as well. It's light, it doesn't have the Kenwood sound, you know. We were getting to that in the 80s. And by the time the 90s came, I mean, the price point had gone down on the equipment, but the quality had gone down with it. You ended up with stuff that was hard to repair, ended up being thrown out. People still paid enough for a piece of equipment like this that they weren't likely to throw it out. But this was around the transition point. Now, of course, there's brand new stereo stuff being built today that's expensive and it lasts. It's true audiophile components. But I've had several recent, some Onkyo, Sherwood. I had just picked up for $6. It was a Yamaha home theater receiver. It was a 2016 model. Had a blown channel, and I couldn't fix it. Just couldn't fix the darn thing. Couldn't get the parts. Anyway, thanks for watching and listening.